Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's another great evening. We are back here another week looking at our mental health and resilience series. It's going to be a wonderful time tonight. I have two very wonderful guests with us tonight from the Good Shepherd Women's Services. But before I say anything, I wouldn't even say too much. I have Paula and Diana with us tonight. I will let them introduce themselves and just tell you who they are. You know, I stay away from introducing people in too much detail before I make a mistake. So I will give it to them and let them do what they do. Let them tell us exactly who they are. So I will start with you.
Hi, I'm Diana. I am a violence against women facilitator at Good Shepherd Women's Services. I've been working in the domestic violence and homeless field for women for the past almost 9 years.
Amazing. You can tell there's a lot of experience there, and hopefully we can tap into some of that, Diana. So I will turn to you, Paula. It's up to you.
Thank you. So I'm Paula. I'm one of the wellness facilitators with Good Shepherd Women's Services. I've been working with Good Shepherd Women's Services for over 20 years now. Have worked in a variety of different roles within women's services. So excited to be here and share this wonderful information.
Amazing. So as you can see, we have close to 30 years of experience sitting right on the stage here. And I mean, pretty soon they will start to dig deep into some of the questions. But tonight, our topic tonight is domestic violence, abuse and domestic violence. So, which is a very, very important topic because this is something I think we tend to often overlook, but the danger and the harm it has done to not just women, to a lot of families, to children, to people from all walks of life, is something that we cannot ignore. And I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to delve deep a little bit tonight. So I will start with the first question. And this is for you, Paula. What is domestic violence? Because people hear this all the time, and depending on who you ask, sometimes they will tell you different things. And is there more than one form? I'll give you the first two and let you take a crack at it.
Sure, wonderful, thank you. So I think we have to clarify that domestic violence or intimate partner violence or, abuse in relationships does not discriminate. Anyone of any race or sexual orientation, religion, or gender can be a victim of domestic violence. It can happen to anyone who's in a married relationship, living together, or anyone who's dating. It affects people of all social economic statuses, education levels. It's a power over. It's when someone uses that pattern of power over someone else to maintain that control of that other individual. We see emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, reproductive abuse, financial abuse, and digital abuse currently with things going so much online and virtual. We're seeing that more and more that, individuals are checking what people are doing. Who are they talking to? What are they seeing? And we want to, support individuals in our community because, the abuse rates are rising and we need to be able to be a support and be a contact and, be that reach out for individuals in our community.
Now, a very important piece here, Paula, for you just to follow up on that, because often, depending on who you're talking to, people conceptualize this as something different. And the danger of not being able to realize sometimes that you're being victimized by something like this. So is there any advice as to how an individual can recognize maybe that you're being subjected to domestic violence?
Right. I think it's looking at the power over someone else, right? So when you're not allowed to make those decisions that you normally would be able to make, or when you're isolated from family or friends or things that you typically would enjoy doing. If you were someone who enjoyed going to school and now, those activities are stopped because someone else has had that power over you. We look at those things at individuals. Why does someone have, if there is physical abuse, why would someone have, marks on their skin? Or why are they hiding, parts of their body? Are those things happening? Mood, depression, mental health, all those things being impacted by someone else's power over that individual.
That's abusing you. But to you, Paula, how has COVID-19 resulted in an increase of reports of domestic violence, especially within the community?
Right, for sure. So I think we were looking at the beginning of COVID-19 was very different for lots of individuals in our community. And we saw a limited amount of individuals reaching out because I think there was a fear. huge fear of, contracting the virus. What did shelter systems look like at that point? Individuals were used to being able to have their daily routine. Children were going off to school prior to COVID. Partners were going off to work. Everyone was home. So women that we're supporting in the community were saying to us is that it's very scary to reach out because they don't have a space to do that. Where people would normally have an opportunity, I drop my children off at school and then maybe I could go and meet with Diana or attend one of the programs that I'm facilitating at our center, but that stopped. Right? And that I think people also thought that everything stopped. So I think we saw a halt in services a little bit. We were trying to reach out and say, we're still here. Our team at Women's Services did a video to say, we're here for you. Like, call us. We're here. We want to help. We know this is a difficult time. We want to be there for you because we know that things are tough and we want to be that listening ear and that support. And we know that, again, we're all trying to get through these challenges and struggles, and we want to be there for individuals. So we've seen recently an increase in calls, an increase of individuals requiring shelter. We've seen a huge increase in single women accessing supports. And there's limited resources for that currently in Hamilton. So it's putting a strain in some areas, but we're adapting every day to be there for the community and being for everyone.
That's a very important point. You can do your normal routines. But Diana, I would like to come to you. In many racialized communities, there's stigma around sharing personal issues with outsiders, sometimes not even with outsiders, with people that you know. In many racialized communities, depending on who you're talking to. In fact, in some families, the narrative is that you shouldn't air out your dirty laundry. You find most people saying, you should keep your dirty laundry inside. And sometimes I'm surprised because I'm like, no, you take it to the laundromat. There are a lot of other people that see it. It's not just you that keep it inside. But in all seriousness, in other families, there are threats of reprisals, sometimes life-threatening. It has led to death of other people or being ostracized. What advice would you give an individual who is in a violent situation and is afraid to seek help as a result of the stigma associated with it?
Yes, thank you. Any person who experienced domestic violence is going to be afraid to talk about their experiences because they're afraid of retaliation from their partner, from their family, from their friends, people not believing them, or even blaming them or judging them for what's happened within the relationship. And that goes with fear and shame, but also the unknown of what happens after they tell, especially professional, and what is their life going to look like, and if they do leave, how are they going to survive, meet their basic needs, take care of their kids, all of those things. But the barrier to stigma is you need to, unfortunately, have to jump over it to get help. Many women we've worked with have experienced barriers of stigma and fear, and they've gotten services as well. So you're not alone. So that's the biggest thing, is that you're not alone. As Paula said, 1 in 3 women experience domestic violence. So unfortunately, there's a lot of women experiencing it right now. And also, as we'll get to, men as well experience domestic violence. So it's just reaching out for help. And also, stigma is not limited to a certain community regarding domestic violence. Just like domestic violence can happen to anybody. Anybody can experience stigma or shame or guilt around it. But nothing, unfortunately, is going to change in the relationship until you get help, because you can't change the other person. That's not your responsibility. All you can do is get help for yourself, and then they have to make this decision if they're going to change their behavior or not. So I suggest getting educated about domestic violence, knowing your rights, your options, the resources in the community. So that can be done by reaching out to a crisis line, because your information is private, or you can seek counseling, or you can also do your own research on the internet, but just be aware of safety. And sometimes the information on the internet's not the most accurate, or it's hard to find specific answers to some situations. But also reaching out to a professional can also help with the stigma, because they, especially if they're working in domestic violence field, they know the barriers to leaving. So they're not going to stigmatize you. You have confidentiality of what you share with them unless you're going to harm yourself, or a child is being harmed, or you're going to harm somebody else. They're also a neutral person in the situation, so they're not going to blame you and say that you're bringing maybe shame on the family. And also they can give you the proper information or connect you to the right people that can answer your questions. But basically it comes down, it's your choice. It is your life, so it's your choice to seek supports and what that looks like for your life.
Diana, will be, what are some of the strategies to deal with the associated trauma of having lived in an abusive relationship?
Unfortunately, well, thank you, but unfortunately, it's a very loaded question because, as we know, everybody's experience is going to be very different and unique, and as well as their healing journey. So that's going to be very individual as well. So, basically, it starts with having conversations with people you trust. So, as Paula was saying earlier, it is talking to people around you. So reaching to people you trust, whether that's family, friends, or professional, just to get information, but just to be heard and validated, because of usually in the relationship you aren't validated at all. You're put down, and so you want to be validated, you want to be heard, and also many women are living with, the women we work with are living with their abusive partner sometimes, so they come and reach out for us to gain information before they make any major decisions. But healing involves it's kind of like starting from the bare basics again. It is getting that sense of safety again is the key thing. You can't really do anything until you have safety and then your basic needs met. So your income, food, getting your kids taken care of, knowing your rights. But then it's also rebuilding yourself, because you have been disconnected with yourself because of what's happened in the relationship. Your self-confidence, your self-esteem has been impacted. It's having to rebuild trust in yourself and trust in others. It's overcoming that shame and guilt and blame that's also experienced within the relationship and not having to take ownership of that anymore. But that's a very condensed version that can take a long time.
And that's right. The purpose of this show is really to provoke thought, right?
Yeah.
We're not trying to sit here and say, we'll answer these are very complicated questions on any day. So the goal here is to really provoke this thought that maybe you may not have been thinking about this before. Maybe you may not have known what to do before. So I encourage you, if you find yourself in a situation, some of the things we're talking about, especially if it is related to it, you always have that option to pick up the phone after. I mean, you can reach out to Paula or to Diana, or even at Empowerment Squared, we'll be able to help direct you where to go to get some help. And now let me put all here. What support is available for individuals and families that might be victims of abuse? And are some of these services also applicable to immigrants and refugees?
For sure. So we do have emergency shelters in Hamilton. So we have a few violence against women shelters. We do have a family center in Hamilton as well. We have youth services as well in Hamilton, which is great. So again, it's making those connections with those services. And it doesn't mean that someone has to stay in shelter, but it may be the first call that you make to, I'll say, for example, our Martha House crisis line is that you give that call and you just want to kind of weigh those options. They may be someone that you can talk to and connect with. And we have a great amount of services in Hamilton that can support individuals through many steps. So we have individuals who do legal support, right, for free. We have our family support worker program where someone can help you navigate through those steps. And again, is that I think within the city of Hamilton, we're trying so hard to meet the needs of newcomers and trying to provide services in language. So don't ever feel that because you're speaking another language that we can't provide those services. We will go over and above to make sure that those services are provided, to make sure that your needs are met, to make sure that your cultural needs are met, religious beliefs, all of those things. I think we're trying that within the violence against women sector to make it feel comfortable, because we know it's uncomfortable. It's making that call to meet with maybe one of the one-on-one counselors, attending one of our wellness programs. That's always a great opportunity. I meet with many women who come through our yoga class or a Tai Chi class or a Zumba class. And it makes that connection first because, okay, I've connected with Paula and she's able to then kind of guide me on this roadmap of where I can go for help. But I didn't go to a counselor. I went to Paula and I went to yoga. So it gives that input, it gives that connection, it builds that community, and again, puts those resources in our back pockets for women to access, and also making those connections for their children as well. It's connecting here with Empowerment Square. Like, I think that's fantastic. And the services that you can offer, I think, again, it's working together as our community to build individuals' toolboxes.
Absolutely. And in fact, I would tell people, yes, I understand that a shelter may not be the most comfortable place, but let me put it this way. I'd rather have a night of discomfort and then sustain a night of abuse because it could end your life. I'd rather have a night where I'm just uncomfortable, which is a normal thing. When you leave your bed or you leave your home and you're somewhere else, you will feel uncomfortable. It doesn't matter whether it's a shelter or somewhere else, especially if it's not your own space. You will. But I'd rather you have a night of discomfort than have you dead by the morning. So those are the kind of choices we're talking about here. And I hope people can realize that you better go through that discomfort and make a transition than accept to be in a situation of abuse only because you're worried about the discomfort. We'll quickly wrap up here with the last two questions. And I know those of you online, you can't wait. I promise we will take your questions too. But I'll quickly wrap up with you, Diana, with one more question. Most people believe that only women are victims of abuse. Are men also victims of abuse? And why are men not likely to disclose these type of incidents?
Well, as we said before, anybody can be a victim of domestic violence. But I think, yes, men experience more barriers to accessing services, whether that is through like our society and how we believe about men, but also maybe not knowing what services are out there for themselves. So a lot of times, especially, we have a lot of views about what, especially in a heterosexual relationship, like there's a size difference between a man and a woman, and so how can he be a victim of domestic violence? So you have a lot of stereotypes that way, but also gender stereotyping about what a man is supposed to be. So seen as tough, can handle anything, and not talk or express emotion, which is not okay. And that kind of creates that level of silence. So it's creating a space where they can talk and where they feel safe and they feel heard.
Question with you, Paula. This is important. I didn't want to miss this. I really want to get this in. What impact does witnessing abuse have on children and youth?
I think it's a great question. And I think, especially here when you're working with youth, is that there's a huge impact within domestic violence, intimate partner relationships. And, we hear from women, well, the child wasn't in the room when, the assault was taking place or the verbal aggression that was taking place. It still impacts children. And we need to think about that even, and in this work, we see that the higher risk, if a woman is expecting a child, a woman is at higher risk of experiencing domestic violence. Even that child in utero is still experiencing that domestic violence, the stress, the tension, if there's physical abuse, all of those things are impacted. And also, how does a woman, nurture her child after birth, if they're experiencing domestic violence? So even from birth or before birth, that children are impacted. And even in a home, if we're saying that, the child was in the bedroom and the verbal abuse was occurring in the living room, there's still a feeling. Children can still sense. Children can still see what's going on. Children can still see mom sitting there crying or dishes are broken in the kitchen. They may not know everything that's going on, but they know something doesn't feel right. So I think there's a huge impact on children that we need to talk about with children and youth and teenagers. We need to talk with everyone about this, that it's not okay for this to happen in our homes. And if this is happening, who do I reach out to? Who is my contact? Do I come here to Empowerment Square and be like, okay, I need to talk to someone because I don't know what happened in my house last night, but something didn't feel right. Something felt really yucky, and my mom was crying, and my dad's now gone, and I don't know what's going on. And I think it's looking to those services in our community. We run a great program in partnership with other violence against women agencies in Hamilton. It's called LEAF, and it's Learning Effective Anti-Violence in Families. So children are set up in groups by ages. and usually mothers or whoever the caregiver is also is in a group at the same time, and they talk about different topics that kids, but in a more of a friendly approach to it, right?
Yeah.
In a more of a children, and like, let's talk about healthy relationships and what that looks like. And then the moms are doing the same kind of work on the same kind of topics at the same time, so that when they're going home, they're able to have those dialogues in a healthy, safe, supported way, and they have contacts, right? They have individuals that these children can now say, I met with this worker and she was really great with me. Now I know I can meet with her one-on-one or support. So there's some great community agencies that are doing great work with youth in our community.
Yes, Aline, don't get too upset. I'm here, I'm coming, I promised you, and I'm here, okay? So why do individuals stay or return to an abusive situation?
Well, that's a great question.
I'll leave it for any of you
I can take
to go
it.
ahead.
So thank you, Michelle. It's also a very good question. So there's a lot of barriers for someone to leave a relationship. Some of them can be finance. So how do you afford your own apartment or your own place to live, especially say if you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home partner, or if you work at a lower income salary. So how do you afford all these things? How do you put food on the table? How do you take care of your kids or afford them what they are used to? Also, there's threats too. If you leave, I'm going to take you to family court. I'm going to get the kids, or I'm going to call Children's Aid and get the kids. So there's a lot of barriers that way. And also same with what returning. Sometimes person can experience a lot of barriers or struggles. And sometimes going back to a relationship is easier than experiencing the unknown and not knowing. And unfortunately, there's a long wait list for housing in Hamilton.
Oh.
Not much money is given on ODSP or Ontario Works. So there's a lot of barriers there. That's a very short, condensed version, but also the impact abuse has on a person. So all of those mind games and emotional abuse and mental abuse have been done to make a person feel that they can't do anything by themselves. They can't survive with this other person. This other person they should be grateful for because they are loving them when no one else can love them. So it's that mental and emotional pull is what does prevent someone from leaving or coming back.
That is true, and I would just maybe add to that by saying that is the reason why abusers do their best to isolate the people they abuse. So you realize that sometimes just loneliness alone, by the time you walk out of an abusive relationship or whatever situation it is, you realize that you have absolutely no network. And usually it is the network and people that you know that are supposed to support you. Because if you had a lot of network and you know a lot of people, you can always pick up the phone and call a friend or call someone and say, can I stay with you for the next 3, 4, 5 months while I figure something out or so. So keep your eyes out. If you notice someone is doing everything they can to isolate you from everybody and everyone, in my opinion, that would be a red flag.
Yes.
As to why someone is trying to stop you from having any network or knowing anybody. Well, it says, I'm an immigrant who does not yet have permanent residence status, and my partner is Canadian. I'm scared if I leave this abusive relationship, I will be deported and separated from my kids. What can I do?
It's a great question, and we see this often as an abuse tactic for individuals that access our services, that if you do leave, I will call on you and you will be deported. I would encourage you, if this is, anonymous out there, I would encourage you to give our services a call. We're here to support you. This is not the first time that we've heard this threat to an individual, and that fear that's there, because that is a power, again, that someone has over someone else. And we've been able to support, many women in our community in navigating that and being able to be successful in this community with their children. So please reach out, because I think that's a huge power that we see in a lot of women currently that are accessing services, that power of, I will take away basically your freedom of being in Canada, and I will make you pay for this.
Yeah. And there is laws in place that does protect women who don't have permanent status in Canada when they're experiencing domestic violence, so they aren't deported. They can stay and then follow other paths for immigration. So we do have a legal family court support worker who helps a lot of women navigate the immigration system and has worked with women in very similar circumstances, and so have I. And so we do our very best to help you through that system. It is very scary, but you have rights.
So what I was Paula and Diana, thank you so much. I will allow you to tell us your final thoughts to wrap up in maybe one or 2 minutes, and then we can call it a night.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So basically, I think Paul and I kind of decided that as a community, we need to talk about domestic violence. We need to work together to support survivors. We need to end the shame and stigma regarding domestic violence. We need to work together to listen, support, and advocate for changes.
All right.
We're here. I mean, we're here, and whatever we can do to help, that's what we're going to do, and help individuals in our community navigate the daily struggles, and we want to have that conversation with individuals about domestic violence, and that we need to stop stigmatizing and silencing it, and have those conversations.
Yeah, and my final words on this will be that no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter where you're from, domestic violence knows no boundaries. And also, I often say, even though we use the term domestic violence, it does not have to be in a domestic setting. Violence against women, especially relationship-based, violence against men, against children. The term domestic is just used because it's where it happens the most, because that's where you build such close, intimate relationships. But whether it's your girlfriend, it's your boyfriend, long distance girlfriend, or long distance boyfriend, like you heard Paula just said, there's now digital abuse as well. It is abuse, and you need help. Reach out, seek help before it is too late. And I'm Diana from Good Shepherd Women's Services for being here and sharing their experience, sharing their knowledge, but also willing to reach out and help where help might be needed. Thank you so much. Have a good night, and it's a goodbye from us on this end.